In the previous videos, we kind of talked a little bit about the base idea of a fractal, and we programmed something approaching one, something that looked sort of like this. Yeah, it sort of is a fractal, but really, when we talk about fractals, we don't mean something like that. We mean something more like this, where it's not just a single thing getting smaller and smaller, not like a spiral type of idea, but instead it has multiple versions of itself getting smaller and smaller. So we have this line that keeps getting smaller and smaller, frequently dissecting the previous segment. So now this will be 8, and then we end up having 16, and we could just keep going forever. Now eventually we have to stop, and eventually the computer needs to stop too, because you don't want to send it into a forever loop. And you get the idea. Now in the previous one we had done a while loop, and that's fine, but we can't get something complex like this very easily with a while loop. I mean, it's probably possible, but it's going to be rather convoluted. Instead, we need some sort of function. We need to define a function, and inside of this function, make it do stuff, and then eventually call itself. And so by calling itself, this is what's going to give us recursion, and this is what's going to allow us to do something like this. And if we just pull up some sort of previous existing code by someone else, and we take a look at what they did, we can scroll down until we find some code, we see some examples, you kind of get that idea of multiple versions of itself as it gets smaller. So we can see void draw circle, and here inside of that, it itself is calling that draw circle. So all of this is the code for this function, method, whatever you want to call it, and inside of it, it is calling itself. And if we go further down, you're going to see that same thing again. So here's another one, and we see draw circle, and we see inside it is calling itself. So to really have even a decent fractal, you're going to have to create some sort of program where you have a function, you're defining a function, and you're calling itself inside of that function.